Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends and family beyond the binary, good evening and welcome to the Coaches Corner, the show where we bring you big name coaches from the Overwatch tranquility and the Overwatch community at large to take the deepest dive you can take into a game of Overwatch. Now, I am your host, Warren Jugglegod Hammond, and I'm here to ask our guests the stupid questions so that you don't have to. And speaking of our guests, tonight on our premiere episode, we have Tickety joining us. How are you doing tonight, Tickety?
Hey, good. I'm doing good. Excited to get started.
Yeah, this is going to be fantastic. Now, I got to know you a little bit before the broadcast, and one of the things that I found interesting that many people might not realize is you used to play competitive badminton, correct? Like way back in the day.
Yeah, when I was still in school, like elementary school, I started playing badminton and entered my first tournament when I was 11, I think, which I only know because I have a medal from a U12 division, an under 12 division. And I've been, to be honest, fallen off a bit lately, but I've been playing ever since. When I was in high school, I competed as a junior. I traveled internationally to compete in tournaments. And yeah, represented Canada at, I think, 2 Canada Winter Games,
really,
2 Western Summer Games, and 3 Arctic Winter Games, which is like an Arctic Circle competition.
Oh, that's so fascinating. That's really interesting. So I just have to ask, do you find any overlap between Overwatch and badminton, maybe in the competitive nature of it, or anything like that? They seem to be very disparate, but you never know.
Yeah, so, well, the biggest difference is badminton is largely an individual sport. Obviously, there's like doubles and mixed doubles, which I mainly played mixed doubles when I was competing, but it is very much an individual tailored game. So I think of a lot of macro level stuff maybe compares from badminton or any traditional sport, but you can kind of think of one person as an entire team in Overwatch, and they have to do all the jobs that 6 people would normally do in an Overwatch setting.
Right. Okay, that's interesting. And speaking now of Overwatch, do you, as a coach, have any specific approach that you'd like to take to coaching Overwatch?
Well, I think this is actually something where my traditional sport background actually comes in handy, because one of the things you learn when you're competing, or I was a bit of an amateur coach as well in badminton, mainly just like supporting teammates for the most part, but you learn to coach the player and not the game for the most part. Like, obviously, there's points where you have to like teach people mechanics of the game or things like that. But at the end of the day, you're working with people, and people are going to be very diverse. People are going to have different opinions, think different ways, and it's your job as a coach to get through to the person, not just the hero in the game.
Right, right. I like that perspective. That's very, very cool. Now, let's get into the map now. Let's get into what we're going to be discussing. So tonight we're going to be looking at the match between Decapitators and Manifest. This was the Trans-Tier preseason grand finals game. So an exciting match we have for you. And this was the very first map that they played. It went back and forth quite a bit, as you'll see. The map was Lijiang, and you'll see that Decapitators win 2, Manifest wins 1, Decapitators takes the first, Manifest wins the second, and Decapitators takes the third. So, can you maybe walk us through a little bit of what we might be seeing, in this first map?
Right, so starts off on Night Market. I think the order then goes Control Center, Garden, from what I remember. Very much a tale of 3 different maps. One of my favorite parts of Control, King of the Hill, in Overwatch is that they can have such diverse geometry between the different points. You don't see that very often on like payload or hybrid maps, which develop naturally. These are very stark differences. You start from fresh every round. It makes Control really, really exciting. And luckily, in this VOD, we see a ton of different compositions on each of the 3 different maps. But on Night Market is where we see the only differential between the 2 teams. It's sort of an asymmetrical matchup.
Right.
So from one team, we're seeing a bit of a slower rush-based composition. I say slower, but they're still like a fast-paced rush. They're playing around a Reinhardt, and they're playing more anchored around the point. And then we see the other team rolling out a more of a traditional dive. Well, modernly traditional, I should say. It's with a ball, tracer, echo kind of deal. So we see this asymmetrical matchup where one team's trying to play slow. I believe their first fight they roll out, they TP to point, as we've been seeing so often these days, and they just try to bunker down this whole area before the dive team has a chance to execute any of their dives.
Right.
The long and short of this map is that we're going to see them do very well at that controlling the objective, but unfortunately, you need to do more than just stand on point to win a team fight in Overwatch, and we're going to see the dive team take advantage of them not really having the mobility and the ability to punish as well as the dive team can.
Gotcha. Excellent. So let's take a moment now and let's talk to our players. So today we have Sherb and Jonas joining us from both of these teams. So can you give us a little insight maybe into what you two were thinking, or do you have any questions for them to continue to start out?
Well, my first question would be to Sherb, about their team's composition on Night Market specifically, and kind of, so obviously we're not in game yet, but once you guys see what they're rolling out on, I have a few questions. Namely, why Winston?
Because it's just like, it's kind of cheese. We think it's like cheese against like Ryan. Like Ryan
Okay.
Diva, you just kind of win first fight with Doom especially. So we're just like, we thinking they're gonna go Doom, or I mean Reinhardt, some Ryan base comp, and they're gonna TP because that's what most people play when we scrim them.
Right.
And then we're like, all right, we get free fight win, we get extra percent, which is like, I think first fight win's most important in Control, and then we can swap Diva after if we lose.
Gotcha. So it's about like that all-in first fight AoE unblockable damage kind of deal, expecting a bit of a rush mirror.
Yeah.
Gotcha. That makes sense. That makes more sense of what I was cooking up in my head, to be honest. But obviously, not seeing the mirror matchup, the adjustments become a little bit hard without that Diva, or without even like a Zarya to provide a little bit of support, and having a bit of too much all-in potential, I suppose.
Yeah.
All right, are you ready to get into the map now, Tickety?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's take that deep dive in. Let's get this thing going.
Control. So
Yes.
yeah, as we're seeing the asymmetrical compositions, blue team here rolling out with the Symmetra, but then swapping back to the Tracer just to get an early rollout. And this is where we're seeing red team TP straight onto point, looking for that rush target, but nothing immediately showing itself, obviously, on point here. This is where we see like the true dynamics of this comp matchup show themselves. So as we can see, the red team fully anchored on the point, right? They have carved out this space, and the moment anyone from blue team steps into this sort of corner of the world that they've decided is theirs, they get rushed on. So the answer from blue team here, I think, is really, really smart, is just flat out patience. The way you can win this matchup as the dive team is either rely on heavy poke damage, likely coming from your Echo. You've seen this traditionally in the past from Pharah play as well, where you wait for a direct rocket to hit or something like that to initiate a dive to guarantee that kill. Or alternatively, you wait until you build up ult percentage and you win an unlosable fight by just throwing ultimates that the enemy team can't respond to. So I like this patience from blue team. I like the map control, the way they're surrounding the point and not giving up too many targets for red team. But unfortunately, I think we're about to see this come a little bit short. So right now, they're not really committing. It's good. It's a good look. And consequently, red team's not really thinking about too much besides controlling the point, which is exactly what they need to do for this first fight. Like we mentioned, first fight on control can be extremely impactful, so taking the time to make sure you're enabling your own win condition, very, very important. A little bit of an awkward engage there from the Tracer, unfortunately flying off the map. And then the Symmetra being able to take down Jonas here. Sorry to call you out, Jonas, but this is exactly what you don't want to happen in a dive composition, is lose your most important resources, your DPS, who are going to be those fight closers before you're able to get off a really good looking dive. And now with those members off the field, even with Winston going down, it's looking like a pretty solid fight win for the red team here. And they're able to just close out targets one by one. Bit of an awkward overcommitment here, I think, to stay both for the ball to try and contest the point and to even go for this res. I think it's lucky that the res got off, to be perfectly honest. But now blue are still able to corral them here, even if they're not fully pressuring the point. And this is, again, exactly what we want to see from blue. Like I mentioned before, now that we have ultimates online, namely the duplicate coming from Jonas going onto the Doomfist, and the Transcendence now coming online for Zen, this is now an unlosable fight. There's no big team fight winning ultimate from the red team. Symmetra Wall, even if it got off, probably not going to be enough. The Baptiste amplification matrix not going to be enough to damage through trance, and they just go all in. They find their reason to commit to a dive, namely these two ultimates, like I said. Also a third one coming in from the Pulse Bomb to really guarantee this fight win.
Now I have a quick question here for Jonas.
Sure.
Jonas, were you aiming for the Doomfist on this duplicate, or were you looking for somewhere else? Because I was curious about this choice. I don't think I've seen a Doomfist duplication come out, and the reason that I ask is because I feel like the Doomfist ult isn't necessarily that impactful. So I was just wondering, what was your thinking behind the Doomfist duplicate?
I more want to engage with ball. If I copy Ryan, they can kind of kite me out. Their Doom can punch me away. I kind of get beamed, right?
Right.
Into like Dromir with like Echo, Ryan can do way more with like a Lucio, but because we're running Zen, I can go for Doom. I have the momentum. I can just go in with our ball and kind of just snowball.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, I like that answer a lot. And I think the biggest reason to pick Doom over, say, Reinhardt, which would be like your more traditional copy target in a lot of instances, is because blue team's working with a faster composition, but that also means they've got less time to make something work. So you need that immediate impact from a Doomfist punch, from Doomfist ultimate, from that full-on engage that you might not get from Ryan. Like, sure, you could get a pin, but it might get countercharged. Sure, you might be able to swing, but you might get focused down by the Symmetra. There's more things that could go wrong. Obviously, Doom is not guaranteed value, but it's faster value. And I think that's what blue team was looking here for as well. And I really like the duplicate for that reason as well.
Cool. Thank you.
Losing to Zen, unfortunately, but this is pretty easily cleaned up from the blue team. And again, a late commitment from the Sim wall. It looks like they were just swapping onto the McCree here, so they just wanted to get an ultimate out. Maybe a Hail Mary, but now red team swapping on. We've got the Diva coming out. We've got the McCree Tracer coming out. Now looking more like a standard rush brawly type composition. Again, though, this is a very asymmetrical matchup, and one of the downsides of this composition when playing into a dive is it's very hard to carve out this space inherently. Because Reinhardt's shield doesn't really find value against Tracer Echo, because Lucio's speed doesn't really get you onto any valuable targets, it's very hard for the red team to even get out of this choke as we're seeing here. So this dive, I think this is textbook from the blue team. It was very clear what red team's intentions were. They were trying to speed through the choke, maybe find a target out here, but ultimately probably move the way towards a point where Reinhardt's shield's actually going to find value, where McCree can sit nice and comfy, where Baptiste can be nice and comfy on point. But this whole transition period, whether they go this way, whether they go this way, is a very easy engage from the dive team. So nice pre-fight setup, nice roll through in mines from our ball player here, and really just all blue team needs to do is keep them out in the open, because the longer red team stays in the open here, the less value Ryan's getting, the less comfortable McCree and Baptiste are looking, and as we're about to see, it's very easy for your focus to get split up from the red team here. So even though they were together when they started rolling out through this choke point, very quickly with this disruption from the ball, it's very hard for any of them to stick together, to use their resources together, and they end up falling one by one.
So I have a question for you, Tickety. Which route would you have suggested Manifest the red team take at this point? Would you think that Coast would have been a little bit better of an idea, or should they be more concerned about the boops coming in from Shupak and go main, or perhaps even try a SimTP?
So I liked the idea of the SimTP for the first fight, but
Right.
even with SimTP, you're still at this choke, right? And there's still even more dive potential. Like if you get slammed or sticky bombed at a TP before you get through it, that's a lot of damage. So ultimately, I don't think there's necessarily anything stronger or weaker about either of these paths. What I'd like to see is less full commitment from the red team. So I'm going to rewind just a second here to show what I mean by that. So right as they're coming through this choke, my worry for the red team here is that they think they're going to be able to break this choke no matter what. And unfortunately, with the ultimates online from the blue team, that's never a guaranteed play. Even with just mines or just Diva Bomb available, that's not a guaranteed rotation. And what I'm seeing from the red team here is that it looks like they're already committing before they're even thinking about those resources. You can see where Ryan is. No ultimate's been used, but we're already starting to get split up because we weren't anticipating this play. This is part of the nature of this asymmetrical matchup where even though it's a rush comp, the Ryan comp is a much slower composition, which means they're at the mercy of the blue team's engage. No matter where they go, blue team's going to find a reason to engage on them, but they still need to find a way to break through these chokes. What I'd like to see is just a little bit more patience here. Instead of Diva and Ryan going aggressive during this moment, anticipate this ball going aggressive, anticipate the Echo or the Tracer going aggressive in the same vein, and then look to punish them instead of just move past them. If we try to ignore this engage too heavily, our focus gets split, our resources get wasted, even with a beat, even with Immortality Lamp used, it's very hard to find value at this moment during the fight. And then yeah, even with the Echo going down early, we're still not fighting in good space. This is still not where the red team wants to be out in the open. Like we said, we want to get to the point. We want to get comfy for our hit scan and our backline. But because the blue team stalled us out with a nice engage, because they're still forced to work through the blue team's space here, it's just more time for Tracer to find picks, more time for Ball to find disruption. And of course, Zen free firing in the backline is never a good time if you're the red team.
Yeah, those discords are pretty brutal. So sounds to me like it was kind of a timing issue from red team, at least on that, right? They needed to take their time more for the engage. Okay, cool.
I think we're seeing a bit of that mental adaptation here. So sure, you're the one here swapping from Lucio to Brig. Is that just because you use Sound Barrier and you think Brig's the right choice, or do you want to facilitate a different type of play style from your team? What's the thinking for Brig here?
Like Brig, you can like help your. I wanted to help my Tracer, like win the duo, because I
Like
think
throw packs, yep.
yeah, packs are I think better than Orb, obviously. 'Cause
Yep.
HP, but also like you said, we weren't finding value at a speed because they're just displacing us just too fast. So I was like, maybe we break it. Break just kind of helps you live more.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
I was just thinking like maybe we just live and then we slowly get to point.
Exactly, yeah.
Just
We
like
can slow things
deterring
down a little
people.
bit here. The biggest thing I would say for swapping off Lucio is exactly what you said. There's no real target for you to speed on. The only real target is up here, and speed's not going to help you with this. So I like the swap to Brig a lot. I think exactly what you said. More easy packs on your DPS, on your Tracer, more stability for your McCree and your Baptiste, which is part of our composition's identity. Unfortunately, I think what we're about to see is a little bit more of the same. Even though we've talked about slowing things down a bit, we're no longer working with speed, we're still committing very early. Again, using Earth Shatter like this and committing onto the ball is like, it seems like a good engage potential, but we're not factoring in the counter dive or the ultimates on the side of the blue team that's going to slow down our aggression. So biggest lesson I would learn from this is, again, we need to take our time. Even things that seem like a guaranteed follow-up, like shattering a ball, needs to account for a pulse bomb in our backline, a diva bomb flying above our head. And when we get into situations like this, where our team comp is struggling to find footing, struggling to stay together, really just need to take a step back, breathe a little, slow things down, and really work on carving out that space step by step, not just thinking about instantly finding a kill, instantly getting to point, these kind of things. We're playing a slower composition on the red team, so we need to play a little bit slower. Jonas, I haven't called on you very much, but from what I can tell, I mean, pretty solid play from you and the rest of your team, being able to manipulate this choke very well. Obviously, retaking on any Koth map is never the easiest thing in the world, but really good use of abusing this choke.
Thank you.
So we're swapping on to an Orisa composition, slowing things down even further from the red team. What I'm worried about here is that we are sort of jumping to a conclusion without really finding the root of the problem. So obviously I haven't worked with your team before, Sherb. I'm not sure exactly what's going on in your minds right now, but it feels like your Rhine player might have said, okay, I can't do anything on Rhine. They're just playing dive. There's no one I can shield. There's no one I can get to. So I'm going to play something more slow that's going to help our backline and maybe be more of a ranged threat.
Yeah,
That's it.
we were thinking like Ryan he just doesn't find value, so you just want to
Mhm.
Rista based comps are like we think is our best comps right now at
Okay.
least. So we were thinking let's just go Arista, and we can just kind of bunker down and slowly move our way to point and just
For
live
sure.
through everything. Because
And
Arista
yeah,
kind of doesn't die.
very true. The horse lives forever. I like this change in playstyle. I think it could have been achieved with a Reinhardt, but if we're relying on player comfortability or team comfortability on the Orisa, that's absolutely fine as well. My only worry is with 80% for the blue team, retaking with Orisa is going to inherently take longer. You have to work almost like leapfrog with your shield forward, find really good, nice timings for engagements and turning corners, finding space. And I'm not sure we have all the time in the world to work with to make that work. But let's finish up the map and see where it gets us. So this already, even though it was just Orisa here and like a bit ahead of our team, this is what we need to be doing. When the ball looks to engage and disrupt this movement, we give up on the movement and try to punish the ball. With Orisa, that would look like maybe fortifying to not get displaced, and then using a pull on the ground, pulling in the ball, maybe followed up by Brig Bash, by McCree Flashbang, and then all the damage in the world. And then that's your reason to now push through the choke. You can't just assume we're going here, this is our end goal. We have to go, okay, first we have to fight for this space, then we have to fight for this space, then we have to fight for this space, now we're on point. So that little bit of being able to take a step back is exactly what I want to see. Unfortunately, it was only Orisa there not able to punish the ball for doing that movement. Again, time ticking down. Tracer coming into touch. Should guarantee the point cap, or not point cap, the point contest, while the rest of the team works for space here.
Pass into the unknown.
Again, I think a bit of an early commitment. I like the patience, knowing that we had the patience to work here while our Trace is touching on point. No one else is stressing about point. We're thinking about actually winning the fight by taking this space. But then, before finding a clear target, before waiting for the team to come to contest the Tracer, we've thrown a Diva Bomb in, we've tried to drop off the high ground, we've given up the space we just fought so hard for in anticipation of a really fast team fight. And I'm sorry to tell you, but the faster team fight is going to probably benefit the dive team more because they can play more flexibly. They don't have to worry about space as much because they can all get away. They don't have to worry about playing for each other as much because they can play very independently.
Adaptive circuits engaged.
Couple that, of course, with the ultimates available for the blue team here, and they're able to ward off this aggression. Not easily, but they're able to, again, survive a lot of these trades, find a lot of kills in return. Even though they gave up the point here, blue team is still in a very strong position to win at this team fight. And now, knowing that they have the mobility, have the movement to capitalize on all these kills one by one, they finish out the team fight first, go back for the point, and trigger overtime. At this point, it's a lot of just overtime contest. I like the attempt, red team. I like the swaps to get there on time. I like the coordinated movement to get to point, but it's a little bit just too little too late at this point in the map. It's very hard to come back from this kind of situation without a miracle play.
Cease your resistance.
And I believe this is where blue team closes things out. So
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, now one thing I noticed too is every time the dive team came in, everybody from Manifest seemed to like spread out a lot, right? They did just an excellent job with that disruption, I think. And I guess I just wanted to highlight that from the blue team as well, just that was nice play.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, go ahead.
The only part I would take away marks from the blue team was that first fight where Delphi fell off the map and Jonas went a little bit too aggressive too early. I think just a little bit of added patience there. I think they were stressed about the point being capped by the red team, and felt like they had to make a move. But understanding the comp differences, understanding that it's not your job to immediately win the fight, but find that perfect opportunity to really go in, whether that's with ultimates or big stickies or a Zen right click that brings the Rhine down to half HP, things like that.
Right.
Wait for that trigger to really bring you into the fight before trying to force things.
Very cool. Well, let's take it over to our next map then. I believe, like you said, we are headed to Control Center, so let me go ahead and bring that up for us.
All right.
Wow, I haven't really taken a look at this overhead map. It looks so much different than I was anticipating.
Yeah,
to be perfectly
whenever
honest.
you're playing the map, you kind of visualize it as a straight line, right?
Yeah, you really do, but it's not. It's not at all. So can you? Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to talk more about the map. It's fine.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I was going to ask, where are the important parts in this map to control? Let's maybe start from there.
So obviously, getting into the map, we're going to see our mirror matchups now. We're going to see a lot of the standard Symmetra Junkrat rush that people have been favoring on this kind of map. So obviously, first fight's going to look like a lot of white room control. It's not really a high ground, but people play it kind of like a high ground because of its natural cover, because of its access to the mini packs, because of multiple kite routes, whether that's back to your spawn on either side like this, or back towards the mega this way, or towards the high ground. There's lots of ways to escape out of white room, and it's a lot harder to escape from the point, for example. It's a lot more open space on point. It's a lot more longer sight lines. So white room control is considered very valuable, especially first fight.
Okay, and
so we're going to...
So, briefly, you said that a lot of people play white room like it's high ground, but it's not really high ground. Could you expound on that a little bit? Because I'm just curious.
Yeah, so what I mean by that is from the white room, from this whole kind of space in here, you've got good sightlines onto point. And the point does not have good sightlines onto you. It's not that they can't see you, it's that they have a lot less natural cover. Right. So instead of being able to like back up and like pull your head away from the high ground ledge, you can sort of back around these corners. Or I guess you can sort of back up into the dark room in here and go like towards that mega pack. So it's played similarly to a high ground in the sense that it's considered valuable space because of the sight lines it offers and because of the kite routing it offers.
Right. Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, like I said, a lot of fighting over white room, and this map, even more than the last one, is considered a very hard map to retake. So we're going to see some pretty creative options for both teams for how they're retaking this point, but obviously lots of important pressure around choke points when available, either here or as they're coming onto point here. One of these three areas is usually going to be the default route for retaking a point, so we're going to see both teams putting a lot of pressure in these three areas here, whether that's through the mini, towards white room, whether that's just straight to point, and then even being able to hold up close, especially with spam damage like a Junkrat, can be invaluable on a map like this.
Gotcha. All right, well, ready to jump into the game then?
Yeah, let's do it. All right. Just fast forward a little bit here to make sure we catch up.
Ready for battle.
All right, both teams rolling out on this Reinhardt Symmetra-based composition. Blue team opting for the Mei, red team opting for the Junkrat. So similar compositions, a lot more similar than last round at least, but with a slight difference in win condition. So when I look at these two compositions, I immediately think sort of what sort of pace does each team want to take. And in my head, I'm already thinking the Mei team's going to look for a Mei wall and rush. The red team's going to look for Junkrat spam and then try to wear down the shield and slowly work their way forward and be an overwhelming threat. So in a way, and this is going to be a bit of a stretch, you can almost think of this similarly to the sort of rush composition versus spam composition. Even though they're almost identical and both teams have rush potential, this team has more rush potential and this team has more spam potential. So I'm looking to see that little bit of acknowledgement of slower gameplay from the red team, and faster gameplay from the blue team. And that's exactly what we're about to see. So, rolling into this first fight already, instantly Mei wall used, instantly speed boost into the enemy Rein. Oop, a little bit too high there, forcing the Immortality Matrix immediately. This has been the best response from red team to any of blue team's aggression I've seen so far. They didn't overuse cooldowns. They didn't completely forfeit their space. They're still contesting a big chunk of this white room, still enabling the Junkrat, still enabling the Symmetra, and look how healthy Rein's shield is. He took the damage himself. There was no need to put his shield up, just so Symmetra could get some free charge kind of thing. So this is where the Mei wall found some value. Yeah, it forced the Baptiste Matrix, as we're seeing here in the kill feed, but it wasn't enough to win them the fight, which means now it's time for Junkrat to come online and the spam damage to find value over time that's going to win them the fight as it moves forward. So traditionally, these type of Rust compositions typically rely on mainly Sims damage to ramp up to that level 3 charge, to burn down every target from supports to tanks. But in this case, the added damage of the Junkrat is enough to instantly stabilize them from that aggression. Blue team tried to go aggressive off the Mei wall. It wasn't quite good enough. And then the Junkrat damage on top of the Sims damage was enough to close that out for the red team. So really good absorption from the red team, I'll say.
Yeah. I have a quick question here. What could the blue team have done differently after the Mei wall failed, knowing that they were in a worse position and that the spam composition was likely going to get stronger and stronger as the fight went on?
So looking at the dive composition for blue team last time, what they're able to do as divers is fully disengage whenever they want. If we're playing Echo Tracer and we go aggressive, it's easy to get back out of that with your mobility, with your recall, with your shift on Echo. There's lots of cooldowns for you to get out of a fight. Same goes for Ball compared to Reinhardt. He can roll through, maybe even slam, and then just get out because he's Ball and he can do whatever he wants. In this composition, it's a lot harder to disengage, especially as individuals. So the only way you'd be able to stabilize from this situation is to coordinate as a team to either move defensively somewhere or even go even more all in and commit even harder to the Mei wall. So what that would look like, and here, maybe we can slow things down a little bit. Can I... Oops, that's not what I wanted. Let's go to 0.5 speed. So this Mei wall is good. It isolates the Rein from his healers, from his backline, from all the damage, and it's an opportunity for blue to really punish this overstepping from the Reinhardt. I think a charge right here, if it would have connected, would have guaranteed the kill on Rein.
Right.
Unfortunately, it doesn't connect, and at this point, we've used our biggest cooldowns. We've used most of our Matrix, we've used our Mei wall, we've used a lot of our time in this aggressive position, and we didn't win from it. I will say also, from the blue team, nice being able to get over the wall, both from Sherb and the D.Va here, and as we're going to see from this Immortality right as the wall goes down, nice management of the Mei wall, being able to absorb that cooldown. This is what we weren't seeing versus dive. Our D.Va was trying to go aggressive at the same time that blue was diving, instead of playing defensively for their Reinhardt. But now, cooldowns used, ultimately stable ground. This is now a relatively even fight, but as we said, with more damage on the red team side, the more they sort of stay butting heads, the more it's going to favor the red team. So this is where I'd like to see blue team either fully commit to getting out or committing to the fact that they forced Lamp and just going even harder into them. I don't know how, let's see how much Matrix is left on blue team's D.Va here. Okay, we still have a decent amount of Matrix. We could just ignore this Lamp and push even further into them and try to almost Hail Mary a fight win by overwhelming pressure. But
I see.
The biggest thing is just an immediate decision, whether that's to go aggressive or play more defensively. I would typically favor the defensive play, just because a big resource was used in Lamp, and then if you kite either this way, or even towards point, for example, as long as you're moving together, you can now benefit from your own defensive Lamp, and maybe punish red team for going over-aggressive onto you. But, as we saw, we stay aggressive. Our Rein, our Mei, our Symmetra, our D.Va are all trying to continue this fight. But it's not enough. All of our focus is on the Rein. Not enough of it is getting past the Rein. The Lamp is used. Doesn't quite save the Symmetra. But this moment is already in favor of the red team.
Yep.
And they end up winning it out.
Okay, cool. So to summarize, it sounds like they just needed to make a more...
The objective is now.
they just needed to make a decision, right?
Yeah.
They
They
played
need
it
to
a little
react more.
indecisive.
react more to the ebb and flow of a team fight. It's never just win instantly or lose instantly. There's always a bit of give and take back and forth, whether that's reacting to damage, reacting to cooldowns, reacting to value or lack of value from your own cooldowns, and things like that. A lucky pick comes in from the blue team here, and I want to blame Nick just as an individual player, but realistically, this is because red team is not holding valuable space. Red team right now is an extremely telegraphed position. They are holding point, which, as we talked about, not the greatest place to hold. White room is basically free high ground at this point for the blue team. And they are ready for one push. They are ready for this push from the red team. They're ready to clash with their Reinhardts. They're ready to spam and have healers comfy back here, spam with the Junkrat maybe on an off angle like this. What they're not ready for is this rotation, or even just the amount of spam coming through main, because they were trying to hold this base a little bit too early. So what I'd like to see as an adjustment... So first of all, actually, kudos to the blue team for recognizing this relatively weak position from the red team and abusing it by working more of the map. But what I'd like to see from red team is less telegraphed holding. And again, this is sort of playing into the idea of teams committing a little bit too early, whether that's aggressively or defensively. So this looks to me like too much of an early commitment defensively. And what that usually means is just the position of your Reinhardt. If Reinhardt was instead up in this white room, baiting the blue team to push this way is going to be more beneficial, because then we can use white room and punish them, and we can even rotate our Rein to go collapse on them. But going from here up to here is a much harder job, and you're not going to get as much value from your Sim or Junkrat trying to work up these stairs, around these corners, past these little billboards here, and it's going to be a much harder task to retake that space. Man, my camera is not having a good time today. Than it is trying to just almost guarantee a push this way, because blue team doesn't need to push that way. So, nice working the map. Obviously a huge pick on the Baptiste. That's the majority of your healing already down the drain. And then the Baptiste window to sort of seal the deal. Baptiste ends up traded out, as well as Diva Mech almost, not quite. But, as we saw, that advantage early on was more than enough for blue team to win this out.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a pretty fast fight win right there. Now, I have a question. This is actually going to be for Sherb. If you can pause for just a second.
Sure thing.
I meant to ask this a little bit earlier, so forgive me. But what was your team thinking after the first map? What were any adjustments that you were trying to make mentally? You know, not speaking about necessarily the composition, but you know how you were going to approach this.
We kind of just wrote that map off because we knew what we were gonna play on the other maps and what they needed to play. It just that map really didn't matter, and we didn't think they're gonna play that comp again, and we were never gonna play that comp again. So we were just like, all right, 0-0, go again.
Yeah,
Worst
not your
map.
style. Don't need to sweat it.
Just that stuff, and yeah, I think it kind of worked because we were just like we just didn't think about it at all, and it just kind of I don't know.
Yeah, no,
fair
that
enough.
sounds good. Thanks.
And yeah, obviously trying to lean into the Reinhardt comp. Now this is more your wheelhouse, able to leverage more of that value from your tank and play more of something in your style. Makes a lot of sense. Let's keep going. So again, from both sides here, we're seeing a lot of early commitment to this sort of main approach. Again, when I say commitment, I mean mainly Reinhardt's position. This is already a tough hold because we had people coming in late and our Diva's out of mech for the moment. So I'd like to see, again, a little bit more flexibility in terms of where we're committing. It's fine for maybe just Reinhardt to be here to scout out ahead, to carve out this area, but then maybe have some more pressure from Junkrat up here, maybe have some sim turrets scouting out for us in locations like, maybe locations like this to determine if they're coming white room, maybe up here, determine when they're hitting the choke, maybe even up here to scout if they're going for a flank if we have the time. But most important thing is we can't commit to a fight that isn't going to happen. And it looks to me like we're committing to a fight in this location, and red team saying, nah, we're just going to go this way. And even bigger than that, Junkrat saying, not a chance, I am taking the high ground and finding a tire. So
I remember we got their Diva out of back and we were like, just regroup fast, and then we just speed their way and just take it, because we knew they're not gonna be able to contest us with no Diva.
Yeah, you're going to be able to bully the Rein with all the damage that's unmitigated without Matrix. Lots of good things. coming from here. I really like the creativity too of sending the Junkrat up top because again, it's just blue team is ready for this engage. They are definitely not ready for a tire from the moon here. So obviously, nice creative approach from red team here. Again, would like to see more flexibility and more availability to different types of pushes for the defending team, the blue team here. We're seeing a bit of a sort of catch-22 from both teams, where both teams just want to be aggressive, both when they're retaking and when they're holding, and that can be good, but if the enemy team knows what's coming to them, they're not going to play into it very easily. What's interesting to me is that both teams are showing this sort of behavior. Even though red teams knows how abusable this hold was, now we're defaulting in the same kind of hold. So I'd like to see that extra step of being able to pinpoint exactly what's going wrong for the enemy team and make sure you're not emulating that behavior. Not playing too linearly is the biggest thing.
Yeah, I think we were holding. We were just too tunnel. We were like, all right, what else do they have? How do we like counter them? We were not really thinking about how we set up. We were just kind of autopilot kind of.
Yeah, for sure.
Kind of set up, and we needed to focus on like where we were on the map, I think.
I can't believe I forgot to bring this up earlier, but can you remind me what sort of SR ranges these teams are playing at?
Oh, sure. This is 33 to 4,000.
Okay.
Good question. Yeah, so, that is the trans tier.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Range.
So, yeah, based on gameplay, I would assume somewhere around Masters level, so that makes sense. So, this is a very common plateau that a lot of teams hit, where you know how you want to play your composition, right? I think both teams can very confidently say like they know what they want to do, but adding depth to your play and being able to pinpoint what you need to do given certain contexts is sort of the next and biggest step for adding depth to your play. So biggest advice so far from both teams is just add a bit more creativity, add a bit more depth by being more prepared for different situations. Both teams are very ready for how first fight's going to go. Even on the last map, both teams had a very clear game plan for how they're going to take first fight. But now that we're holding space, or holding space on this end of the map, we're prepared for one fight. And if something else happens, we're not ready. So adding a little bit more flexibility, more depth to your playstyle, and not all inning too early, even if that means the way you're planning fights or even choosing compositions, can really add some depth to your play and really level up how you handle teams that only know how to play aggressively or only know how to play sort of in their lane. Jonas took a tip right out of Trippy DN's book and tried to go for the flank tire, but already a little bit of flexibility, even just from D.Va's position here, shuts that down. And if we had seen, obviously, Anima didn't have the mech on the previous retake, so that would have been impossible, but even just this level added of awareness of map control shuts down this play before it even gets started. So really like that, the way the setup is. I still think there's too many people on point, committed to this fight on point, when realistically all blue team has to do is not go to point to make this a lot less valuable. And as we're seeing here again, red team should have been up in this moment. Blue team committed an ultimate, red team was holding defensively, the ultimate got no value, but still, blue team is able to carve out all of this space to the point where it's forcing a Symmetra wall just to keep them on point. So again, we're committing too early in terms of our position, how we're playing, anticipating the blue team to retake here, and it's costing us a lot of space, costing us a lot of early value, when we should be looking to counter-engage with the sim wall. The moment they pull out of this white room, we should be able to hold them here with sim wall, and then take a fight that favors us, not just one that keeps us alive. And again, that all starts with being ready for more situations. And now, even though red team's managed to stabilize a little bit, there's a lot of ultimates being traded back and forth, lamps being used back and forth. And this is a point where actually I think it sort of flips on its head, where it was favored for blue team for a while, red team commits an ultimate, blue team commits an ultimate. End of the day, both teams are just kind of bashing their heads against each other and waiting to see which one wins. And in this case, I think it's the Reinhardt who got more value from their swings. We see a ton of value coming in from Karkinos. I hope I'm saying that right. He gets the kill on the Baptiste with the Fire Strikes. You see how low blue team's Reinhardt is here. He can't swing even if he wanted to, or else he's immediately dead. And then it just comes down to how much unblockable damage can you live with. And it turns out not that much. But yeah,
Excellent.
both teams, again, too much early commitment. Too much early commitment here. Blue team takes advantage of that. Red team stabilizes with the Symmetra wall, and then too much early commitment from the blue team, thinking they've won just because they took white. Taking white's not going to matter if you force the fight on point too early either way. And ways around this, if you were the blue team, I would say just play a little bit slower. Play to flush out this diva, since you know she's on your Junkrat, so that Junkrat can come online. Play to surround them even more. Maybe negate the sim wall by now pushing over here. Or stalling out the sim wall. We don't need to take the fight immediately, kind of thing. And then once their sim wall's down, use our own to push into with them. A little bit of added patience, being ready to respond to the enemy resources, not just use our own aggressively because we have them, could add a lot of depth to this play.
So I'm noticing kind of two themes coming up here, and that's timing and map control. Would you agree that those are kind of like two themes that we're continuing to see here?
I think the timing is actually pretty on point from both teams. Both teams know when they want to push. What I'm worried about is that they're not thinking creatively enough about how they're pushing or even responding to pushes. And part of that is definitely playing into map control. It's pretty obvious to go white room if Ryan's holding here, right?
Right.
That's kind of a given. You don't want to just have to work through the Ryan unless you're ulting him or something like that. So this is a fairly obvious play. But it's not until we saw stuff like the Diva marking this Junkrat that we're seeing true use of map control. And I'd like to see exactly right. You want to see more of that. And that's all that's going to do is give you more information, make you make more informed decisions about how you should be holding, when you should be going aggressive. But even without all that information, I see both teams making active decisions, which is good, obviously. I just think we're falling too much in that boat of we're going to do what we want to do every time, not necessarily responding to what the enemy is doing and reacting to that.
Right.
I'm not sure why we haven't seen either team holding too aggressively at these chokes either, by the way. Like, sure, we're down a Diva mech, but to me, in both these situations, both when blue team was holding here without a Diva mech or red team holding here without a Diva mech, this is even more of an excuse to hold aggressively. So when you're holding space, you need to think about not only what your counter engage is going to look like, sure, are they going to push through this choke and then we pin them at this choke, or are they going to push through this choke or this choke and we're going to hit them right aggressively? But how can you use that space defensively to, A, draw resources out of the enemy team, force them to use things like speed at the very least, or Diva Matrix, or things like that, or even more in terms of ultimates maybe. If they have to use a Baptiste window to break through this choke, for example, they're not going to have Baptiste window to fight on point with, or things like this. You can draw more out of them the more forward you hold. And in this case, or in the blue team's case on the previous hold that they had, buy time for your Diva to build up a mech. Buy time by just holding up here and kiting back intentionally. You're not trying to take the earliest fight. You're just trying to make their approach as long and as painful as possible so that by the time you're actually committing to a fight, maybe you've built up more ult charge, maybe you've built your mech back, or maybe you've burned through a Reinhardt shield, or forced them to use their immortality field early, or things like that. And you've done that just by manipulating the map. Not by committing early, not by trying to win a team fight, just by holding space and then working to give it up, forcing them to use resources to retake that space, even before a team fight breaks out. But we're going to get mech back either way, and still, I'd like to see a lot more pressure here, but we're opting for the safer play. We're opting to hold the point. We know it's close to 90%. It's one team fight win and then we win, so we're able to sort of give up a little bit more space than we'd intend to.
Right.
This is where, again, we're seeing both teams very eager to commit early. We see the Baptiste windows used simultaneously, the Diva Bomb coming through. I don't think either team is really thinking about the ultimate economy of the other team. They're thinking, hey, we have all these Q buttons and we're going to press them this fight. If we win this fight, we win the map. Let's go. So, patience at the end of the day. Be willing to sacrifice space or resources in response to aggression so that your aggression, when it comes time to take your turn, is more guaranteed value. But in moments like this, it's a lot of sort of a grab bag between who hits the most shots and who finds the most value out of their ultimates when shots are flying all over the place.
So I have a question. And you were talking about patience a lot, right? And, you know, waiting. what is either team waiting for? What are they, what is going to be the go button, right? Like they want to wait, they don't want to take this as quickly. Are they looking for an opportunity? Are they looking for a specific point on the map they want to control? What's going to be the go button?
So in my head, there's sort of three things in a composition like this. Number one is priority positioning. So for example, taking White Room instead of trying to brute force your way through main. Right. If you can take priority positioning and set up a Baptiste window here, it's going to have better sight lines than a Baptiste window here, if we're using that in this example. Or Junkrat spam. Junkrat spam from up here is going to find more value than Junkrat spam from down here. So priority positioning, number one. Number two would be forcing enemy resources. If you want to brute force through this way, you need to take your time doing it. You need to break Reinhardt's shield, force Diva's Matrix, force Baptiste Immortality Field before trying to push through this choke. Or if you're using ultimates like Baptiste Window, understand that the Baptiste Window isn't there to win the fight. The Diva Bomb isn't there to win the fight. It's to get your foot in the door. And then once your foot is in the door, then you, again, work a little bit slower, burn through Reinhardt's shield, burn through Defense Matrix, burn through Immortality Field, and then try to finish the fight. By trying to finish the fight too early, you're not respecting the enemy Baptiste Window, the enemy Immortality Field, the enemy Earth Shatter that we saw hit the backline. If you're not ready for those resources because you're too tunneled on trying to win the fight with your aggressive play, you're going to be left exposed. You're going to be over aggressive. You're going to see situations where your Rein's thinking he's killing everyone and charging in, and then, oh, wait, they had Immortality Field still. Oh, wait, they had a beat. Oh, wait, they had Junkrat Tire that killed me. So not being ready to anticipate those defensive resources when you're retaking, and being too tunneled on your set win condition because you have these resources in your pocket can lead to sort of shallow play, and that's where we're seeing most of these team fights fall short from both sides. Both teams committing something too early or expecting more value than they're guaranteed, and it not panning out for them.
I like that. I like that phrase, expecting more value than they're guaranteed, right? Because each of these ultimates and abilities is going to get you something. But it's only
how
going
much
to
is
get
going to get you,
Yeah.
Exactly. And overall, I think a red team's done a good job of like holding a space. Obviously, it's been very hard for the blue team to retake, but I think blue team had a lot of good ideas. It's just they weren't quite deep enough, and they didn't account for all the different factors going into these team fights, and they got caught off guard. But this team fight looks like they're coming out ahead. They're able to stabilize and regroup and play together before the red team is, which is leading to awkward positioning and a little bit of split play from red team, on top of a Junkrat Tire to capitalize on the chaos. And blue team's closing things out here. It's a tight one, but they managed to close things out. And now, again, we're in a really awkward holding situation. So, like I mentioned before, ideally, you hold a choke like this, maybe even up there to get some early scouting information. But with Anima swapping off the ball, with the team still spawning, that's not always possible. So now we're almost in a first fight situation. There's no huge ult discrepancy. Like, sure, there's a Tire and a Diva Bomb coming online for the red team, which is more than the blue team has to work with. But this is where you need to start thinking similarly to first fight. And that means if you're not able to hold super aggressively or work off the space you currently have, you need to be willing to work with that ebb and flow of a natural team fight, being able to take space with your cooldowns, give up space to recharge those cooldowns or resources like shield and matrix. So blue team here, not an ideal position, but still have enough to work with. They still have point in their favor. They still have some control. They've got Tracer on a flank here. They've got Junkrat almost back. It's still a very winnable fight for the blue team.
Right.
But I think they commit a little bit too early here, trying to go aggressive. Again, you see how much Rein is struggling to even close the distance because there's no reason to go aggressive right now. We haven't forced anything out of them. We're just saying, a Rein in front of us, I want to swing on him. But we're not taking into account the spam damage from the off angles. We're not taking into account all of the map pressure red team has right now. And we're not waiting for a reason to go aggressive. We're just seeing a target and saying, hit mouse one.
Yeah, I remember, like, we were calling, they're still on ball, their Diva's gonna be late, or something along those lines. So we're just like, all right, go and take point. And we just kind of walked in, and they didn't
free
really
space.
contest it at all. And we were just like, all right, hold point. And they just had to come to us. And we just kind of sat there and let them take damage.
Yeah, and I definitely understand if you're on blue team right now, there's a lot of stress in this moment. It's already an awkward hold. They're already at 90% or 99%. So I'm curious, Jonas, like you were sort of the last one getting into this fight. Do you remember what was going through your head in terms of what you wanted to do to try and win this out?
I think one, our comms really cluttered because it was like finals, right? And it's like first map, so we have the jitters still. And then like on top of like not, we've been in this situation probably like 2 times before in like 2 months of scrimming. So like it was really awkward. We didn't really know what to do. So it was kind of like taxi our Ryan. We kind of just try to stabilize, play more for advantages off our tracer junk, right? Because we can play for like picks or directs for our tracer get cleanup. And then they kind of just walked into us because we didn't play properly, and then our BAP got pressured out by the diva because we didn't really match their diva much at all during the game.
There's one resource here that I would have wished to see you guys utilize more, and you did a really good job of this on the previous map, and that's the fact that you control the point. The fact that you are in control of the point, even though they're at 99%, and the moment they cap it, it's going to be overtime, it's still something they need to do. They need to touch the point. You don't need to touch the point. You need to win a team fight. So what I'd like to see here is, yeah, sure, mark the point, make it awkward for them to touch as much as you can, but don't commit to a fight here. Put your effort into controlling better space. And if anything, I'd say, Jonas, you should be the focal point of this team fight because there's no alt cell 9 that we can play for. You are our biggest damage dealer and no pressure, but you kind of need to pop off to win this team fight, right?
Yeah.
So I would have liked to see some sort of bait play to either force them to come to point, and then the moment they do, we give up the point, we speed into White Room, we enable our Junkrat to try and find a pick. During all this time, Tracer's thriving in the chaos in the backline, maybe taking a Baptiste out of the fight, maybe forcing resources or something like that, or at the very least taking attention away from our Junkrat. And then even if we give up the point, we've now taken priority position away from them by solidifying White Room, and then we can work our way down. But we commit too early, and like I said, I definitely understand the stress. It's like, in your Reinhardt's head right now, I can hear the words just like, we cannot give up point, right? But the only way to win this fight, unfortunately, because of such an awkward situation, is we need to find something that can carry us through, and I think the only thing we can rely on in this situation is setting up for your damage on the Junkrat here.
Now, earlier you mentioned that blue team decapitators, they're going to be looking for a way to bait manifest to point. What kind of bait would you be looking for, or what kind of how do you think you can push them to point or get them to come to point?
From what I've seen so far, I don't think they need to do anything fancy at all. I think it's default in Red Team's brain right now that their step-by-step program to get to the point here is going to be get through choke, take White Room, move to point. To be a bit brutally honest here, I think Red Team would fall short because they would be too tunneled on taking the point. This is what we saw on their retakes on Night Market, where they were trying to just get through the choke, go to point, we'll win if we get to point. Right now, they're thinking to themselves, okay, go to point, it's 99, we retake the point, we win this map. And it's that sort of shallow planning that we've seen both teams take advantage of. So if I'm on Red Team, if I'm in Sherb's shoes, I would need to make sure that, yes, we are going fast because their diva was slow. Yes, we're solidifying this space, but then we actually use this space. We don't see a repeat of the situation before where we set our wrists up on high ground and then we immediately jump down to try and take a fight right away. Here, we set up our Junkrat, our Symmetra in the White Room, but then we use that to our advantage. Maybe we find some spam damage, we break Ryan's shield, and then we push. Or we move our diva to contest the point alone and support her there while still solidifying our ground with our Reinhardt in the White Room kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Of course. But yeah, as we're going to see, both teams committing very early. Again, we're seeing a lot of those Reinhardt just clashing as soon as they lock eyes with each other. And that's going to end up costing the blue team here because of the ult advantage and the positioning advantage that Red Team had. And then the final boop from Sherb to close things out.
Yeah, nice boop. I remember watching that one earlier.
Got to take him wherever you see him.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's going to lead us to our last sub-map here. So,
all right. Third map, third set of compositions. We are going to see some more mirrored comps. We're going to see a very all-in style that's been popular in the Overwatch League recently, and we're going to see, I believe it's, Winston, Diva, Sombra, Echo? Is that correct from both teams?
Reaper.
Sombra Reaper, yeah, sorry, even more all-in. Sorry. So yeah, obviously first fight just as important. This area here on the map is sort of the white room of this map. It's not really high ground, but it offers really good sight lines into the point. Some of the best sight lines you'll get on Garden. You can obviously see the point from here, but really awkward chokes to work through from the white room there. So this sort of pillar area, the bottom area of the map that we're seeing here, as well as the dojo at the true bottom, is where both teams are going to be fighting early. Again, both teams are going to be playing very all-in play style on both sides, and this is a composition, to be fair, that tailors to that all-in type of play.
Right.
But what we're going to be seeing is which team is overcommitting first and getting punished for it, or which team is working the map more and getting value of it, that's going to be winning out most of these team fights. They're obviously, with this composition too, with an ultimate as big as EMP, there are some team fights where, yeah, you can commit to going all in because you've got a win button in the EMP Death Blossom combo, for example, or EMP Diva Bomb that enables a lot of really hard aggression. So the difference from previous maps is, yeah, there are actually times where you can just blindly aggress when you know your ultimates are going to be finding enough value. That's not every fight, obviously, but we're going to see some very quick team fight turns when those ultimates come out. So biggest thing, first fight, you're going to see a lot of contest over this pillar area from both teams, trying to solidify this ground, make sure their tanks have a little bit of space to work with. And number one thing is we're not trying to cap the point early, we're trying to win the fight early. And similar to the fight we saw break out in White Room, this doesn't actually happen on point. It happens around that pillar, around those favorable sight lines.
Now, before we get into this last one, seeing as how both teams were going into this 1-to-1, what were each of you thinking? And Jonas, want to start with you. What was the strategy that you were coming out with as a team to try and come back after losing the last map on Control?
We just kind of mental reset, like reassure ourselves, like we know we're the better team, right? And then like that's like one of our weakest maps, just kind of just reassuring ourselves that we got it.
Okay, cool. And for you, Sherb, Manifest, what was it like over there coming off of the win? Were you all thinking more of the same here, in terms of your strategy and overall approach, or did you have something else in mind?
We were just thinking like this one we thought was our best map.
Mm-hmm.
And we thought like, okay, we know we're better than these guys. We can win. Just play our game, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And Sombra Reaper, like more Lucio stuff. We feel like it's our best look, so we knew like we can get the better of these guys.
Okay, cool. Thank you. All right, let's jump into it then.
I've got a quick question for Sherb, actually. So you mentioned this feels like your best look on this composition, right?
Yeah.
I'm curious why you opted not to play a composition like this on Night Market then. Why you opted into that Reinhardt-based composition?
The only time we do struggle with this comp is like Rhyme mirrors.
Mm-hmm. And, so you don't want to be caught up in that awkward mirror.
Yeah, and we thought we had the like Winston like Ryan cheese, and we thought, okay, we can just first fight easy.
Gotcha. So playing specifically for that matchup, it just didn't happen in this match.
Yeah.
I wonder, is that potentially, since this is grand finals, is that potentially something you guys scouted, Jonas, that they like to run that cheesy opener on Night Market and you played specifically around it with the dive comp?
We kind of just played our game, not as much scouted. We knew that they struggled against Pharah, although like the one Pharah map I wanted to play Echo because we knew they were going to play the Monkey Run and I could just farm copy easily and Echo just has free reign.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so already seeing that high level stratting and counter stratting from both teams. I love it. But here, a little bit more of some WM1 comps, a mirror matchup, like we said. So again, it's whenever you're looking at any mirror matchup, it's going to be the little things that are the difference maker. It's going to be who plays the map better, who gets more value out of their cooldowns, who hits more shots some of the time, and then a lot of the time, who gets more value out of their ultimates more than anything. With Sombra and Reaper both on the playing field, very impactful ultimates on the table. So big eyes on our DPS from both teams to make sure they're getting value in these team fights.
3, 2, 1. Round 3. Capture the objective.
So as we said, big focus on this open space. Neither team wants to overcommit, but still trying to find ways around awkward sightlines. So I like the way both Sombras are trying to approach the fight from these off angles. Reaper marking the enemy Sombra from blue team here is a little bit non-traditional, mainly because Reaper is your biggest damage in this composition. So I'm curious, Jonas, why you opted, instead of, say, the traditional route of playing behind your Winston, trying to bully the enemy tanks, why you're opting to mark DPS in this moment.
I tried to zone out the Sombra and force her out so we could engage, but I kind of hard-trolled doing that because I'm on over, and I think that's like the majority of the reason we kind of get.
It's just the enemy Reaper's finding more value in this moment. If you force the Sombra out immediately and then you're able to rejoin the team, that's definitely huge value because you're just completely denying one of the DPS from the enemy team. I just think it's a little bit awkward at this range, at least, trying to force that. And it takes a little bit too much time out of your playbook. But yeah, as we're seeing, like already seeing the HP differences, like sure, you chunk down the Sombra, but look how much our Winston suffered for it. And then the moment we try to stabilize in this team fight, the moment our Winston tries to continue holding this space, he just gets melted. Biggest thing we're seeing here is blue team trying to play this more like a dive comp from what I can tell, and red team trying to play this more like a rush comp. And that kind of, to me, shows that sort of comfortability in those two playstyles, where red team we saw stayed as one group pushing forward. I mean, other than the Sombra trying to find a hack angle, but the Reaper was with the team. They're focusing tanks first and then working through them. Whereas the blue team trying to set up more of DPS angles, maybe even set up a Reaper flank if you're finished dealing with that Sombra, and then trying to collapse onto the enemy team. So both playstyles, I think, super valid. Sorry, just to finish my thought.
Yeah.
I think both playstyles are super valid. It's just this time red got the better of them because Jonas didn't find immediate value.
And so you're saying the difference between the way that each team is trying to play, like blue team's trying to play more as a dive composition by taking a lot of different angles, and red team is looking to aggress onto one single target, and that's how they're playing it more like a rush comp. Am I understanding that right?
So
okay, cool.
Biggest difference is obviously how the two Reapers played. Red team's Reaper played with the team, trying to brute force their way forward. Blue team's Reaper, Jonas here, played more like an independent DPS, trying even a small flank angle so that he can guarantee more individual value. The biggest reasons to go aggressive for either team is sort of shifted because of that, because red team is trying to guarantee value from their Reaper by giving him all the resources in the world from their tank line and from their supports, whereas blue team's relying on more opening value from their DPS so that the blue team's tanks can save their resources for longer and get more value after their DPS have initiated, whether that's finding a hack, forcing a Sombra out, or finding a flank on Reaper. Then they can dive in, then they can use their Matrix and things like that. It just didn't happen this time, so they got punished for it. So, interestingly enough, out of the three maps, we've talked about a lot of holding and retake problems and things like this. And now we're on the map where retaking is arguably the hardest out of all three maps on Leashon. This is notoriously an easy map to stall out because of, namely because of these windows and the way dive tanks, especially like Winston and D.Va, can just get onto the point from very safe sight lines and continue contesting and things like that. But it's also a very hard map to start a fight as a retaker. There's long split openings to get across. So sure, you can send Sombra around, maybe get past them stealth, but it's very long routing to get there, and then very obvious engaging from this bridge. And of course, we can't forget the boot potential into the pit here. So retaking on Garden is always going to be awkward because of both the stall potential and because of how split these approaches are. But let's see how blue team tries to take things. So waiting for Sombra to get in position. I like that a lot. Looking to find a hack. Again, we're looking for that a reason to go aggressive. We find the hack onto the enemy Sombra. I'm not sure Sombra's a big enough target to really guarantee value because, again, she's there to find engage potential. Sombra's there to find hacks, counter hacks, and do some damage, but she's not really the priority carry in a situation like this. When you're finding a hack, speaking mainly to the blue team's Sombra here, when you're trying to find a hack that enables an engage, which is what we were trying to do, we're trying to find a hack, use Coalescence, and then go all in with it, it needs to be a more valuable target, either a tank that suddenly doesn't have mitigation resources like D.Va or Winston, who is not able to bubble, not able to Matrix, or a DPS that we know we can find value, or a DPS or support, I should say, that we know we can close the distance on and find value. But typically here, I would say guaranteed value only comes from hacking a tank, or maybe like a Lucio or a Moira if you know they have ultimate that you're trying to shut down for this fight. But the Sombra pick, unless she had EMP, I don't think is the go-to hack here. And as we're seeing, red team able to save their resources and find more value early on and just punish the aggression from blue team because that hack wasn't high value enough, ends up winning out this fight. Equal ultimates on both sides used. No real ult advantage in either way. If anything, this team fight's probably going to come down to the first EMP that comes out. Again, very awkward to approach, opting for the white room this time. Either way is not ideal because you're still working for space that is off the point, but doesn't really get you anything on point. It's not like white room where you can take it relatively easily and then see the point. Rooms here barely see the point, make it very awkward to dive onto priority targets, make it awkward for Reaper to try and find flanks. And then here it's just too open and too long of a distance, as well as being a very easy and obvious counter engage from the defender setup around here. So, like I said, retaking's always awkward, but blue team here moving in somewhat together. I'd like to see a little bit of a tighter rotation here. It seems to me like the play is to set up Sombra for EMP. At least that's the most straightforward plan in my mind. So I'd like to make sure that by the time Sombra's threatening, by the time Reaper's threatening, that everyone else is ready to follow up. We're seeing a bit of a conga line here from the blue team, which is just a recipe for disaster in terms of retaking.
Now, you mentioned the two different routes coming in. Given the composition that the decapitators, the blue team, are running, do you think that rotating through the right room was the better choice versus the main bridge approach?
My only issue with going white room here is that it's where your Sombra was also going. There's basically no reason not to split your Sombra in some way, whether that's going the complete opposite route or letting Sombra get in early and then following her just a beat later so she doesn't get spy checked as easily. But since Sombra is such a big part of your win condition, whether that's for hacking during an engage or finding the EMP play, we need to make sure that Sombra's finding value by typically splitting her away from the team and making sure that attention isn't on her during the engage. As we saw, Sombra tried to de-stealth right in this choke where the red team was already looking, because that's where blue team was rotating, and she gets instantly forced back and translocates out, and now isn't going to be there when blue team's ready to engage.
Okay.
Worst case scenario is just having things like Wraith or Translocator forced out early and then getting punished for it. But blue team manages still to find a Death Blossom. So many things I think went wrong for blue team here, but red team were just playing too passively. I'm not sure if they were playing for EMP, playing for a very specific player, things like this. But again, these are very fast-paced compositions, and that doesn't mean finding immediate six-man team wipes. It means capitalizing on small advantages, like, for example, Wraith and Translocator being used by both DPS on the blue team. This is where I'd like to see red team taking an aggressive stance. But instead, we're holed up on point here. We're still just marking the Winston, marking the Reaper. Even though we forced resources out of them, we're not taking advantage of it, and that's just leading for more time for blue team to build up ult charge, get their resources back online, and set up the engage that they want to take. We're no longer pressuring choke. We're no longer looking for an aggressive movement. We're kind of playing to maybe counter EMP is what we're waiting for. But again, we can't only anticipate one team fight. We can't only anticipate the dive, the counter EMP, and then the team wipe. We need to be ready to turn at a moment's notice to say, hey, both their DPS just used very important cooldowns. Let's go punish them. And that can be off the back of anything, really. It could be just whether that's trying to just dive in with Winston, maybe start with a primal, maybe even using beat aggressively, since we know EMP got taken out of the fight when Sombra translocated out. There's lots of different things we could do. We could try and force a Death Blossom to maybe pull out all of D.Va's Matrix, or try to manipulate Matrix and make that find value. But key thing here is we need to take action. If we're on the red team here, we need to punish the fact that they used resources, found no value from them, and we have those resources available to us still. We have a resource advantage, even if not an ultimate advantage.
So I think this is an important distinction maybe to try and highlight when and I really like the way you put this. So when you said that these teams want to play fast, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're looking to like immediately get a pick. It means you're looking to quickly take advantage of any mistake that the other team makes or any situation that's going to be advantageous to you. So
exactly that. Fast doesn't mean first. And this goes back all the way to the first map we looked at versus the dive versus the Reinhardt composition. Just because you're running dive doesn't mean you win the fight by going in first. It means you're able to capitalize on your advantages sooner. So like we talked about first fight, it's not that we need to set up a dive as soon as possible for the blue team on that dive comp. It's that they need to set up the perfect dive. So they're sort of fishing for that opportunity. But then the moment it shows itself, they're in and it's done. Same thing goes here. Just because we're running the dive team and the enemy team's running the dive team too, and we're planning around some sort of counter engage, that doesn't mean it's the only thing we can do. And in fact, it means we should be leaving ourselves open to as many opportunities as possible on the red team. And then once we see them, it's a split-second decision from the entire team to engage on that moment.
Got it.
But like we saw, that didn't happen, and that's leading blue team to finding an engage here. A lot of Matrix used early means an easy Death Blossom from Jonas. Play of the game achieved. And team wiped. Good news is, if you're red team, you didn't commit any ultimates. You didn't try to beat that and salvage it. You didn't EMP too late to try and salvage it kind of thing. So you've got the tools to go aggressive yourself. Even without proper setup, you can do things like just EMP Death Blossom, kill 6 people because strong ultimates. I like the way red team Sombra here is already set up. At the time when blue team's thinking, like, they're already still just thinking like, okay, we just do on the team fight. Now we start thinking about holding space. Oh, and don't forget to spy check for Sombra. Sombra's already in your backline. It's too late. So good setup, especially since we know EMP is available. But blue team takes the wind out of their sails and goes aggressive before they can even find an opportunity. I'm curious, Jonas, did you have any idea where the enemy Sombra was during this moment? Do you know?
No, he didn't. So I trolled with so our Lucio called he was gonna hide for EMP, right? And then I called the go aggro because I knew it'd be 5v6, right?
And you didn't have speed.
Yeah, because their Sombra's trying to set up, but if we just amp into them and just wipe their backline, their Sombra can't do anything. So
I love this.
My bad.
I love that call a lot. I think that's a really smart call. It's just, it was a counter call from a previous setup. So yeah, it is a little bit awkward. But you're absolutely right. And I think you're anticipating Sombra to be even less set up. You're anticipating right now, like the moment they're looking here, Sombra's maybe going to be around here trying to get through the point and get onto you. So you're thinking to yourself, hey, their Sombra's probably setting up right now, which she was, just a little bit more aggressively than maybe we anticipated. It's like, this is an opportunity. But like you said, we need to be fully aware of what our team status is before capitalizing on that opportunity. And that's sort of the benefit of this sort of fast-paced composition. If everyone is ready to go, we can go fast. But if we're not all ready to go, if our Lucio is hiding for EMP, for example, it might not be the ideal time. But that being said, I really like this play. I think this was a really smart play. And even without speed, I think you find huge value here. Killing a Moira early. Winston does go down, and that maybe would have been avoidable with your Lucio there. But I still think the idea for the engagement was really smart. It's just the follow-up wasn't there. It wasn't an immediate win, and then we didn't respect the enemy counter-engage potential enough. I think once our Winston goes down, we immediately go back to prepping for the enemy EMP. We give up the space. We no longer have a main tank. We cannot maintain this aggression, but we still have the point. Like we talked about before, that's something the enemy team has to deal with. So something we can do in this situation, if you're the blue team, is just split up. Be really hard to focus down. Make it so EMP doesn't find much value, and make it awkward for them to push through us. If we're set up like here, instead of all grouped up here, EMP is only going to hit one person, and then the rest of the team can try to collapse on that moment whenever they go aggressive. Similar to when we hold White Room on defense and control center, it's because we're not immediately getting value from that space, but the moment the team goes to point, we can collapse on them. Since the team has to go to point at some point, we can wait for that moment and just make sure they don't find an opportunity before that happens so that we can try to collapse onto them. But obviously, big EMP, big Blossom, team wipe. Both teams' DPS ults being used now. Actually, it looks like blue team's starting to come back from this.
Yeah, it looks
The
like
beat
they might be
committed.
able to hold.
And this is, again, just Legion Gardens, fun time. A lot of easy contests as we see this approach from Shupak on the Winston, guaranteeing the point touch. A little bit of an awkward boop here from getting Moira off. I think if Moira lives there, this is almost like a guaranteed fight win for blue team. Because she got booped off, the beat ends up being committed to try and guarantee more opportunities. trades out for beat with the red team. Builds Primal. And look how much percentage we're still gaining off this when we should have lost this team fight almost immediately.
Carl, like the minute we got like a pick, we called like we can invest alts because either
winnable, right?
It's a win-win either way because we either win the fight or we get like 40% more off it, and they have to commit to.
Yeah, they were forced to commit ultimates. I think picture perfect scenario if you're red team, as soon as they commit beat, you try to just like kite it out and wait it out because you know you're not going to kill Winston with beat with Primal through all these things to win out the point. This is kind of one of those situations where you need to adapt mid-fight and say like, okay, they're trying to waste our time by having us focus Winston, so make sure we can shut down Jonas trying to get back into the fight. Make sure we can shut down the Moira when she's trying to get back in. Things like this. That's where you start putting your attention, and as we're seeing, like we get kills on the Diva, we get kills on the Lucio. We're never going to kill Winston, so focus elsewhere to make sure we close out this fight, even if it takes us longer. But yeah, I really like the Sol tactics. I really like the ultimates being committed. Both Beat and Primal are typically extremely high value ultimates, but in this composition with Sombra available, it's never a guarantee that Beat's going to find value. So using it in context like this, I don't hate it at all. And then again, Primal, same reason. If you could try to go aggressive with Primal, all 6 members from the enemy team can just try to ignore you by using movement cooldowns. So using it to stall out points like this, using it to guarantee value, and even finding a boop on the Reaper is absolutely massive. And yeah, very long stall, almost win it out for the blue team, and like you mentioned, burned ultimates from the enemy team as well, which is even better. It's the cherry on top. Oh no, Lucio. Ooh. Forgot he couldn't wall ride. Yeah. A tragedy. But yeah, now if you're red team, you're in a very comfy position. You know they used their most impactful ultimates. They used Beat, they used Primal, they used EMP a little while ago. So there's nothing big and crazy you need to worry about here. And again, that's where we fall into the default strat of just trying to pressure the map, build your own ultimate economy, and make it as painful for the enemy team to get to the point as possible, since you know at some point they need to touch the point. Bordering on last fight scenario here at 80% for the red team. Blue team slowly approaching, looking like we're trying to set Jonas up for Death Blossom. The Matrix is there, but slightly too late, and Jonas still finds a ton of value from that Death Blossom. This is just a lack of awareness, I think, for the most part, letting Jonas in this heavily, unless Diva got hacked that I completely missed. But this is one of those situations where, even without Death Blossom, you need to save resources for Reaper. He just does too much damage. So making sure your Lucio's marking him, making sure your Diva's ready to Matrix him in these kind of situations is absolutely crucial. And it just came a little bit too late.
I remember here we all thought the Sombra had EMP, so our Diva was going to try to hide the Matrix, and we kind of forgot about Blossom. And and then he blossomed.
Yeah. I can't fault you too much because, yeah, absolutely, you should be ready for EMP if you think it's available. But again, one of those kind of situations where you're prepared for one thing and then something else happens and suddenly we don't have the resources to deal with it. So again, adding a little bit of flexibility where even if we know they have EMP, as long as Diva's like saves boosters, has full Matrix, she should still be able to react to Blossom when it comes out, or even being able to put more pressure ahead of them so they can't approach this as easily, making it harder for Jonas to close this distance and get the Blossom off in the first place is something we should be looking to do. But yeah, obviously, if we think they're looking for EMP, we want to be a little bit split. We want to be able to save those resources and avoid the hack when we can. It's just something completely unexpected happened and took the wind out of our sails. Nice play from blue team, I will say. It's a straightforward win condition, and you found your opportunity, you took it, you acted fast, and it was enough. I'm just worried that in future fights against teams that are more aware of what's going to happen, for example, what the anticipated fight plan is for your retake is, will you have the depth to survive past the initial engage? For example, if this Death Blossom got completely matrixed, what happens next kind of thing? And again, for both teams, I think that's where both of you guys are going to sort of level up your play, is just being able to respond to more hypothetical situations by having that added awareness and that added preparedness. Again, opting for this very aggressive fight. This time there's a counter EMP, so it's a little bit harder to close this out. And now we're seeing red team turn. Again, what happens when our aggression gets absorbed? And the answer for the most part is it favors the team who's more prepared. It favors the team with the counterplay rather than the proactive play. And I think this fight probably factored in the amount of time left in the time bank. You're probably thinking to yourselves, Jonas, you can maybe confirm or deny, but thinking to yourselves, okay, they need to be thinking about touching the point, so let's catch them off guard by going fast. Same thing with the EMP play.
I think the main reason too is our target focus was like the minute we EMP'd, our comms just like went full base boost and like
That's the grand finals effect right there. The tensions are high, the emotions are high, and yeah, I totally get it. Obviously, it's easy to say things like, yeah, just focus down a target after you EMP. It's that easy. But in the moment when emotions are high, when tension is high, when you're thinking to yourself, it's like, we win this map, we're going to win the grand finals kind of thing, mistakes happen, focus drops, and people start, I don't want to say panicking, but they get that sort of heightened emotional state and they don't always make the best concrete decisions.
I saw like when they EMP'd, they like threw it in, and I was able to dodge it and save amp, and we were able to just eat the aggression pretty much. And I like built 60% beat, and I said we just re-engage with beat now after the call, and then
I think
I forget what happens. Yeah, but
I guess we'll find out. I like the beat. Obviously, with EMP already invested, you can use beat however you want. What I'd like to see at this moment is either coordination with your Sombra or your Reaper specifically. So it seems like you're beating and re-engaging with this hack to burn down the Winston to make sure he doesn't get any more value from Primal. And again, since blue team has the point, you have to work fast. So I understand this beat play for sure. You need to use it in this moment. The biggest thing is making sure that we're able to capitalize on it, not just stabilize from it. It's not just a defensive ultimate, it's, like you said, a re-engage tool. Couple that with the bomb. Very back and forth fights so far. Again, Lijiang Garden is notorious for these kind of long, drawn-out fights. Reaper back from the blue team, though, it should seal the deal. Red team DPS not able to come online in the middle of this fight. Sorry, I'm all the way flying out here. It's very hard to spectate this map.
Yeah, it is.
And the beat getting hacked by Omega here. Let me just go back and highlight that moment, because this kind of seals the deal for sure. Watching the Lucio's POV. Amping, builds up a beat. As they're going to use it, hacked in midair. Where even is the Sombra player? What a hack.
Yeah, that was pretty incredible.
Yeah, extremely nice timing. I'm not sure how much of that was predicted or just saw a Lucio wall riding and was like, I got to get this guy off the wall. This frog is too damn annoying. But that timing worked out incredibly well, and this is looking like it'll be a potential for red team to get back in. I don't remember actually who wins this map, so it's up for debate still. Not quite enough.
Yeah.
It looks like blue team closes it out.
Yeah.
Well played. For sure, to even without beat be able to play together, stack resources like this, and be able to focus down targets. This is a very hectic moment, and this is the kind of thing where even the slightest amount of coordination, whether that's Ball and Reaper focusing down target, being able to diva bomb and then pressure a different part of the map where they're forced to corral to, like these little interactions, that's what wins these overtime fights. This little bit of added pressure where it's not expected, being able to close out kills on that Reaper, being able to kill the primaling monkey, all adds into a nice team fight win. And yeah, what a hard fought map. Not only did it go all 3 rounds, but each round was so back and forth. It was so crazy to watch. Really well played, guys.
Yeah, it really was. And let's see here. I want to move into now that we've gotten through the maps, just any kind of closing thoughts. But before we do that, I want to see if there's any more questions from Sherb and Jonas that you have for Tickety.
For me, not really. I think everything that covered was really well.
Yeah, like same here. I think you covered everything pretty well, and I think we like learned a lot from just listening.
Awesome, glad to hear it.
Cool. Well, we're gonna go ahead and sum things up then. So, Tickety, if you had to leave everybody with one thing, what would that be?
It's hard to say because it's so easy to say these things, right? It's so easy for me to say, like, yeah, be more patient, take in more information, make better choices, right? But like when you're in the game and actually trying to make that distinction, it's razor thin margins. It's one person seeing one thing and then being able to communicate that effectively to the remaining 5 people, and then all 6 people being able to act on it simultaneously. Like, there's so much that goes into a game of Overwatch, and I know how chaotic the environments get, especially when you add in match pressure of the grand finals in a tournament, of course. But the overarching sentiment for all 3 maps for both teams, I would say, is you need to add depth to your fight planning. And the first way you're going to do that is being patient, working around what the enemy team is doing, taking time to scout out, to plan for contingencies, to plan for counter aggression and things like that. And the best advice I can give for that sort of planning is work slow first. And then once you're able to move slowly and move smoothly, then you work up to playing fast. I think both of your guys' teams are trying too hard to just come out of the gate sprinting. And that's working when you have EMP Death Blossom, but it's not working when you're trying to rush to the point against a dive comp. It's not working when you are trying to hit the point when there's people surrounding you, these kind of things. So just add a little bit of depth to your fight plan by playing a little bit more patiently, taking time to scout, taking time to adjust based on what you see, based on what cooldowns are used, based on what kind of damage you're getting in, and then capitalizing when the moment is right, not just at the moment of impact, so to speak.
Right. Okay, thank you very much. So we're gonna close things out now for the show. So thank you so much for coming to join us today, Tikati. And why don't you tell us a little bit before we completely close out? Tell us a little bit about PECO, because that's a really cool organization that I think a lot of people in Overwatch Tranquility could take advantage of.
Yeah, sure. So I've been working for the past 6 months or so with an organization we've called PECO, which stands for the Professional Esports Coaching Organization, which is a terrible title, but we've stuck to it. So you can check us out at esportscoaching.org. We've got links to our Discord and everything in there. And basically what we're doing, it's a project started by Jane and Arrow, which I'm sure you guys know. And then I came on board for it. And I'm kind of running the coaching side of things now, where we offer professional level coaching to anyone who is looking to sign up for it. But not only that, we are trying to raise the bar when it comes to public coaching options. So we are, number one, paying our coaches well. We are making sure that our coaches are able to support themselves and able to work within our program comfortably, not just trying to take advantage of whatever talent is out there, like some other sites you might have seen. We are making sure that every customer we have feels very individually tailored towards. We are not here to just grind out VOD reviews 24 hours a day and just give you a product by the end of the day. We want to work with you. Like I said before, you're coaching people, not just heroes in the game. So we want to make sure we're making that connection with you guys as players, whether that's as an individual, as a team, as a coach, whoever is looking to improve. We're there to connect with you and make sure that you have very individually tailored coaching and making sure you have very concrete steps to move forward and improve yourselves. We also are building out a pretty strong community ourselves, probably not as big as Tranquility just yet, but we are building out a community of competitively driven players who are looking for a positive environment to improve in, communicate with each other and improve with each other, as well as we host events, we run pugs, we are looking into more events and stuff like that. But at the moment, we just run this community where everyone is looking to build up each other, trying to improve together, and really just build a positive space to have fun and learn Overwatch in.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And I meant to talk you up a little bit before we got into things, but I forgot to. So I wanted to just mention as well, Tikati has a lot of accolades. You worked with the Dallas Fuel, I believe, correct?
Yep. I was with them for 2 years, up until about a year ago. And unfortunately, it wasn't there for all the success they're seeing this year, so I can't claim that under my belt.
But you set the stage. You set the stage for it.
Yeah, that's what we'll go with. Sure.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, yeah. Seek out Tikati if you want any more coaching advice, and if you want to, get things started with PECO. And for those of you in the Overwatch Tranquility community, this is our very first episode. So we're going to be bringing in coaches from the Overwatch Tranquility community. So if after watching this and you're a coach and want to be on the show, reach out to me, hit me up. You can find me and on Discord, Twitter. I'm in of course, the Overwatch Tranquility Discord. So just shoot me a message there. And yeah, if you want to be on the show, hit me up. And in addition, we're also going to have coaches coming in from PECO from time to time. So we're going to be bringing in Gunther next. He's going to be our next PECO guest in about 4 weeks. So make sure you come back for that. Be sure to follow us on Twitter, follow Overwatch Tranquility as well, all that good stuff. We've got mine and TKD's Twitter and the players' Twitters from today as well in the credits. So drop us a follow there. Yes, exactly. It'll be down there. It'll be like this actually, more so in the credit scene. But that'll be there for you. So thank you all so much for coming to join us, and be sure to check out the other great podcasts that are happening too with Overwatch Tranquility. We've got Reet Drop, Predicting Tranquility, and of course the Iris podcast all coming up. So check those out. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you all learned something, and we'll see you all next time.